Hey, I'm Ken Ellison from Ellison Machine Shop. You all know me. I'm your engine guy. Today it's my pleasure to bring to you something that's a little bit different, something I personally don't get to work on every day. We have a 1962 Cadillac 390 that's going into my customer Tom Boyd's car that he gave me the honor of being allowed to rebuild this engine, me and my team here. And this engine here is going to be a daily driver, so to speak. It's not going to be a garage queen. It's going to be a car that's going to be driven a lot. And this was brought to me through my good friend and colleague, Tom Gummer, over at TG Automotive. And he is the man responsible for removing and delivering it, and he's going to pick it back up. He's going to have this back inside the vehicle here shortly, and him and his team of technicians will have it tuned to perfection, and they're redoing all the suspension, and the transmission's been rebuilt, and all the hydraulics and the brakes, and this is going to be an everyday kind of car. I've had a lot of issues with trying to restore this engine. I'm going to tell you all about that in a minute, but I won't hold it up. Let's go ahead and run it, and then I got some other stuff that I think a lot of you guys will probably find interesting, because we had a lot of challenges on this I want to share with you. So let's hear this one. Fires right up. Torquey. Pretty cool. I'm not going to let it sit here and run a long time. She's just a stock engine, but this is a stock high compression engine. This engine in its day was built to run on 99 octane fuel, so that's a little bit of a challenge here today. And to be honest, we didn't lower the compression in it, and as a lot of you know, getting parts is not what it used to be. A lot of challenges to getting parts on this, which is part of what I wanted to talk to you about. First of all, when we started trying to rebuild this, one of the first things that we found was bad on this was a connecting rod was shot. Trying to locate a connecting rod for an antique Cadillac, not an easy thing to do. Then we needed a oil rod to drive, which was actually known as the intermediate shaft, but that's the oil pump rod that comes from the distributor that drives the oil pump. It was worn real bad. Had to locate that used. Unfortunately, stuff like this isn't available. So after searching for a long period of time, we was able to locate those things. The distributor was bad. I had to buy a used distributor. We had to take two distributors apart and rebuild one out of the two. So there's a lot of challenges to this. I spent hours and hours online trying to locate parts for this. The reason I tell you all that is because you know I don't like to get into anything other than engines on this page. I don't like it to be political or anything other. I like to stay focused on engines. But at this point in time in history, things are a mess. Our supply chain is terrible, and manufacturing all comes from overseas on so many things, and it's really difficult. And if it wasn't for the people selling things on eBay and Amazon, there's a lot of these projects we wouldn't be able to finish right now. There's never been a better time for you to sell your stuff than it is right now. If you're like me, I'm an engine hoarder. I have parts on top of parts on top of parts. I got stuff everywhere, and I've been putting things online and unloading a lot of my old inventory. There's not a single thing that you have right now that somebody somewhere don't need. Who would have ever thought, oil pump shaft for, a 62 Cadillac? But he got good money out of me for that. And it's worthwhile right now. We like to keep all this stuff running. That's why we build these old engines. One of the big problems that we had here, and if you want to come around here, we show a little bit, it's kind of in the shadows, but on this particular one here, this is not my normal run stand. This is an engine. I had to bolt the transmission on this one because on this one, the starter is mounted to the transmission. And all this red part here, we built this just for this Cadillac engine, and we threw it on top of a cart. I hope you can see. It's kind of in the shadows, but we threw it on top of a cart so we could wheel it in and out the shop. But we built this just for this particular motor. And the engine has the flex plate that was actually bolted to the torque converter, and the torque converter and the transmission, so we had to take the flex plate off the converter, mount that to the engine, so that we're not spinning the transmission over while this is running. So the engine is just sitting here just to mount the starter and support the project. That's a lot of extra work that you go through to do this kind of stuff. And to be honest, I found this much more interesting than a lot of the 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 horsepower, big block, small block Chevys, Mopars, Pontiacs, Fords that we do. Not that this engine here is any better than those, and I don't want you to think I get bored doing that kind of stuff, because I'll never get bored of doing those kind of engines. But some of that stuff after a while gets to be routine. But to build and restore a Cadillac 390, that was fun. Very challenging. Spent a lot more time on this than you could imagine with the things we had to do. But Tom over at TG Auto, I recommend him highly. He's the man responsible for finishing up the project for us. I sent the carburetor out because I didn't want to do this myself. You know how I always tell you guys that you should always stick to what you know best, and hire a professional when you need a professional. I rebuild carburetors. If this was something other, I probably would have did it. But this particular carburetor, if it is anything other than a gasket set, if I needed anything else in here or had questions, the amount of time that it would take me to try to rebuild something like this wouldn't be worth it to me. So I sent it over to the good people over at Able Carburetor here in Maryland, over in Baltimore. They did a spectacular job. They've done lots of I'd like to give them a good plug. They've done lots of these for me in the past. It come back clean. It's looking good. It's going on top of a nice looking engine. And like I said, this is a street car. It's not a garage queen. It's not a showpiece. So we didn't go for every little last ounce of perfection on the detail. And we went for clean and pretty. I could easily spend many, many more hours. But of course, with a project like this, money starts getting big. You gotta cut it off somewhere, and don't want to waste customers' money. And on top of that, when you're driving down the road and he's going to be using this all the time, that kind of detailing only lasts but so long. But she turned out really nice. I'm real happy with all the things my guys did here, and my man AJ, who's my head engine builder, he did the majority of the assembly work on it. But like I said, once again, it's a team project between the tear down, the cleaning, the pressure testing, the magnafluxing, the balancing, the valve job, the boring. I mean, it gets one of everything. This is a nice engine, but I thought I'd share this with you because, like I said, this ain't the kind of thing we do every day, and chances are maybe you've never done one or never worked on it, but this is a piece of automotive history, and you hear me say that a lot. I love working on old cars. So thanks for following. We'll be back with the next project.